don't know about you, but it really makes me feel like booking my Christmas holidays after that conversation. Excellent presentations to the both of you, and thank you, Shane and Hermione, for joining us today for this panel. It's just an opportunity to pick up on some of the themes that you've already raised, and it allows us to go a little bit more in depth into them and perhaps answer some of the questions that you prompted while I was listening in to the both of you talking. Hermione, I'd like to start with you. You know, when you were talking about the personalization of data in terms of the travel experience, it opens up so many opportunities for Asian travelers. And like you say, we are some of the most demanding, perhaps, or certainly the most influential, I think was the word that you used. I know that you've launched a new tool. Google's launched a new tool that shows when it's best to book your flight and your hotels ahead of your holidays. How does this work, and is it coming to Asia? Because I'm sure lots of people in the audience would be quite keen to find out about that.
So sure, we recently announced that we launched a holiday tool, as you mentioned. At the moment, it's specifically for the US. And basically what it does is tries to help consumers when they're booking that busy holiday period travel and display when the best time is to travel. So what we do is look at previous flight prices and the average hotel prices and try and direct consumers to either when the best time is travel in terms of when it might be cheapest if they're price savvy, or if they have more time, perhaps how they could change their travel patterns to, again, get a better value out of that travel.
That experience.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And then we also have experiences within that. And so once they've basically narrowed down on the destinations, and at the moment it's for top destinations in the US, so domestic travel, so maybe like San Francisco or Honolulu, we'll also offer up some suggestions around experiences that they can do. So basically what we're trying to do is take away the hassle of travel planning and just bring users the best experience in terms of how to help them plan.
And when might this be available to customers in Asia?
So I know that, and I was playing around it with myself in the office when we launched it, all users, I think, have access to the tool right now, so you can play with it on your phones today. But the content and offering is still just focused on the US. So if someone's traveling to the US during Thanksgiving or Christmas, they could still use it from Asia. But we haven't confirmed when we will roll it out to on Asia-specific destinations.
Fair enough, thanks. You know, Shane, one of the things that you raised in your presentation was how important data is going to be, or is actually, to be fair, right? But you've pointed out that there's a real shift in the travel industry towards using data and the personalization of that experience. But currently what we have is still relatively imperfect, I think it would be fair to say. So how do you see that changing in the future? And can you paint a picture? You talked a little bit about the digital twin in the meeting room space.
Yeah.
But, you know, in terms of what that would mean in the travel industry, when you say the phrase digital twin, it makes me think of like a Black Mirror episode, as we were talking about earlier. What is that? How does that manifest itself in reality?
Well, I do think for a consumer, today it's a very fragmented experience. You go from an airline to a rent-a-car or an Uber or Grab to a hotel. So, but it's a very fragmented, disjointed experience for the consumer. So long term, we believe there's going to be some type of connected traveler platform where it's all that data's traveling across. So, and using something like blockchain as an example, where if I'm a hotelier, then that flight information that I have is coming from the airline, from Singapore Airlines, the flight information is coming across. So I know that Mr. Smith is arriving at 10:30 and he's checking out on a 6 a.m. flight the next morning. So now I have this information that's going to be passed across. And then from an operational efficiency, I can send housekeeping in early to get to drive, to basically drive down cost. So we do see data, long-term, we're encouraging data sharing to a certain extent across and using something like blockchain or other type of technology that allows for a better customer experience, customer journey, but then recognizing, privacy and data associated with the privacy of the consumer data. But long-term, ultimately, we don't want the consumer to have to do anything. We don't want to have the consumer to go into an app. We do believe long-term the app ecosystem will go away and it will be replaced by a digital assistant. So I will have my own Shane digital assistant that will permission me, that I will say I want to permission, you to talk to Marriott, Singapore Airlines, and Hyatt. So when I walk in the hotel, the digital assistant is checking me in on my behalf. And then it's talking to the Marriott digital assistant. And so all those mundane tasks we think will go away and will be handled by my own digital assistant moving forward. So, which is very interesting, but then it allows for that customer experience to really transcend. So I can provide as a hotelier a more thoughtful, gracious, personalized experience in person when I interact with that consumer.
Right.
And again, each consumer is different based on the generation.
So basically, the digital assistant takes on all the sort of boring stuff for you.
Correct.
And then the human assistant or the human interface, for want of a better phrase, would be able to provide a better service to
Correct.
you. So hands up in the audience, who would like to have this sort of digital assistant, digital twin, take care of all your bookings, all the boring stuff, so you can get a better personalized experience when you actually check into a hotel or an airline. I know it sounds like such an exciting but also frightening in many ways future. Hermione, I want to pick up on this issue of, as we move forward into this digital future, the questions over data and who owns it, becomes far more important. What are some of the things, I know both of you guys, both of your companies are working very hard on data privacy. What are some of the things in this space with regards to current concerns on data that it does stay safe for consumers and individuals?
So from a Google perspective, what I can say is that we put data and user information as a top priority and are constantly trying to ensure that we keep user information safe. And it's our number one priority. Security and good privacy is what we build for, and we're really focused on delivering. Within that, in terms of what we do from a product perspective, all our products go through a privacy review. That's both new and old products to make sure that from a data perspective, we are using that data responsibly. And then on a consumer front, we're really focused on allowing the consumer to control what information they share. And so we, as a platform, try to offer them both transparency in terms of how it's being used and give them full control on how to tweak their settings and try and make it as user-friendly as possible to ensure that they are giving out the information they want and they're having a good experience. Because we're very focused on making sure that our user comes to our platform and it's trusted. And so data and privacy is the number one priority for us as a business.
Right, and Shane, I know you don't offer services in the way that Google does, but you build the platform, the infrastructure, if you will. So how much of that thinking or the concerns over data privacy goes into what you build and some of the new things that you're building in the future?
Well, I think it's similar to Google. It's part of our ethos around privacy, security of the data estate. And as you see, in Europe with GDPR, allowing the consumer to have full transparency into their data and understand exactly as a corporation, what data do you have on me? And then I'm going to go and I'm going to look at it and say, no, I don't want you to hold this data, delete this data. So we do see, and in the States, in the US, in certain states now, they're passing GDPR-like laws, and we think that will be pervasive around the world over time. But ultimately, you want to provide full transparency to the consumer to say, you have this data on me, this data is okay for you to hold because that provides me, there's a value exchange between us. This other data, I need you to delete that. So, we believe that that's where it's all going, and I think it's good for the consumer, because it allows them to control their data as best as possible. And then within the data estate of all these companies, they're all fighting for control of all the data. Because if you control the data, you control the consumer. So whether it's an online agency, whether it's a hotel, an airline, who should control the data? It's kind of an open-ended question that everyone's fighting for. And when an OTA sends a reservation into a hotel, they send them a messed up email address because they don't want the consumer, they don't want that airline or that hotel to own that customer.
Right.
So, but now they're using AI and they're taking that, let's say messed up profile, and then they're using AI and they're trying to figure out, okay, that profile actually kind of matches with that person over there, and it stitches the data together. So they're both using AI to help grab more information on that consumer because they want to own it, and and ultimately help drive operational efficiency and a better experience.
Well, ultimately, I'm hoping that we get to the point where each individual has full ownership of their data, right? You know, I mean, ideally. Moving towards the trends, Hermione, that you're seeing in Asia, you picked up on some of them. What do you think are some of the key trends for young consumers in terms of the Asian travel space?
Yeah, so from an Asian travel space and the consumers that are there, I mean, obviously we've touched on the fact that they're incredibly digital and they're digital native and often will be mobile only. We're seeing that obviously it's the rise of millennials. I think in Southeast Asia, 50% of consumers are now millennials, and so they're digital natives. And so a trend that we're seeing there is pretty much what I touched on, but they want personalization. They want a really fast, seamless experience across all devices. They want to be able to consume as much content and be really empowered as a user. It's really important to them that they are able to make the decisions themselves. Right. And they love to travel. You know, they're very focused on the experience now and exploring the world. And we're seeing more and more millennials wanting to travel. So.
Excellent. When you look at the business side of this, Shay, you know, what Hermione has described is the demand from the consumer. But companies need to be able to provide those services to cater to those consumers. And yet so many travel businesses, anecdotally, out in this part of the world are still pretty traditional. Right. I think it would be fair to say. They're kind of scared of tech. What would you say to them?
I'd say embrace it, number one. And then, you know, when you think of your employees, you know, and this is part of employee empowerment, is really, you know, there's a lot of different types of individuals. There's multi-generational individuals in the travel space from a workforce perspective. And, you know, the older individuals, I don't know, like myself, like email. The Generation Zers and Millennial like persistent chat. And they don't even respond to email because they like chat or text or whatever it may be. So how do you help them you know, feel part of the company and provide them the communication platform that has multiple ways for them to communicate, but helping them feel like they're part of home, part of their own culture. Because I think too often we as a business leader, you push out technology to them, but it only hits a subset of the consumer or your employees, when we really want to reach all your employees and help them be digitally native to a certain extent with technology. Help them do that because they feel more comfortable in the space. And if the consumer is fast forward up here and the employee is way back here, or, you know, part of the employee of the travel company, they feel disconnected. And again, that's all part of the culture. And how do you change the culture? Well, enable your employees with technology that gives them superpowers, helps them in, from a cultural aspect, feeling like they're part of a larger vision that's helping this consumer during their journey have a better experience. So it's a fascinating space, but we see time and time again that the business leaders don't help their employees with true technology to help them empower them.
I suppose the question that always comes up when we have a discussion about any industry affected by the digital transformation, Shane, I'll put this one to you, and then Hermione, if you have any thoughts, is the issue over job security. Because this is a traditional industry, metamorphosizing into being able to provide for the young millennial customers, but there's still a big part of it, as you explained, you know, that hasn't been pulled into the future yet.
Yeah.
And there is that fear of job security or how jobs will change. So again, what would you tell businesses how to be able to prepare their staff and themselves for this?
Yeah, I think it's a fascinating economy, the travel economy, because 10 years ago, the idea that I'm going to step in a stranger's car, like an Uber or a Lyft or a Grab, is crazy, and then I'm going to stay in a stranger's home, like Airbnb. So the philosophy behind that is very, it's not as conducive to logic, but that's the way the economy is changing. So we would encourage business leaders really to help, the consumer has so much information through Google. They have massive amounts of information, and the employee, as they step from their home life into the business world, all of a sudden it drops. So we would say, embrace technology from business leaders. Like I said earlier, start small. Some small wins, fail fast. If it doesn't work, switch, change, adjust. and then help your employees dream bigger, brighter, and not only think of yourself as a traditional company, but look at yourself as a digital company as well. And we're seeing companies transforming and even taking existing products that they have, and then they're spinning off that company into a totally separate digital company. If you give an example with Rolls-Royce, this is in the airline sector, they used to sell engines, and now they decided, okay, we're going to move from selling engines, is we're going to, the airlines are only going to pay for those engines when the engines are up. So they're not paying for only when the engines are up and running, that's only when they pay for it. So from Rolls-Royce perspective, then they're using predictive maintenance on the engine, so they know now in advance that this engine, there's an issue, so they're going to fix it, and they automated that entire process. So now the airlines are only paying when the engine's up. So that's a complete digital transformation from buying an engine now to basically leasing it for uptime. But that's a company that digitally transformed in the last 10 years, and then all the other companies, GE, Pratt Whitney, are trying to chase them, because it's a different business model, and as a business owner, I like that business model of it's got to be uptime, and then I'll pay for it.
Yeah, it's like what you said earlier, right? It used to be big eats small, now it's fast eats big, right?
Yes.
I love that. I'm going to remember
And traditional companies can transform, and we've seen it.
Okay,
yeah.
Excellent. Hermione, I want to move on to some of the markets in the Asia-Pacific region that you find currently most exciting right now, both from the consumer perspective and in terms of your business as well.
Yeah, I mean, I think I open saying that I'm so excited about travel in Asia, and I really mean it, because there's so much opportunity here. I mean, the rate at which we're innovating and new brands are popping up, be it, Grab or any type of sharing economy company. We're just seeing so much change and innovation here. So I think from that perspective, I'm really excited about Asia. And also we're seeing consumers shift from offline to online. And so that's bringing a lot of opportunities as well. So the penetration in Asia across the board is around 35% for online travel here. And in a market like US, it's upwards of 55. So that means there's a huge room to go. And I think like our economy, a travel economy in Southeast Asia alone is now a $27 billion business. And that's just the online economy, and it's growing fast at like 18%. So a lot of opportunity just by nature of users coming online and people being more excited to travel, and travel being a lot easier to access, right? Like, you've now got the budget airlines, low-cost providers are very big in Asia, and so that's making it also very accessible, and consumers are able to access information and book much more easily with digital. I think from a market perspective in travel, there is so much opportunity when it comes to India, and this is a place that we're seeing a lot of great innovations and local brands popping up, like Oyo Rooms, and I think there's a lot of opportunity if advertisers can connect well with that domestic customer at scale. Japan is obviously a really exciting market from a travel perspective, much more mature, and obviously the users there, because of the economy, are more high value, so that's very exciting for us. And then of course across Southeast Asia there's so much going on with Indonesia and Thailand, and then the rise of major local players in this space. And as they pivot into other areas of the business, it's phenomenal to see what the likes of Traveloka have done, going from a Meta, flipping into an OTA, and now their app is being highlighted as a super app. You can do a lot more there. So just in general, I think globally everyone's going to be looking to Asia, and we as a business are also looking to see what the Asian consumers are doing, because there is so much opportunity, and as I said, they're becoming much more influential. So I'm really excited about this.
Excellent. Shane, what are you seeing in terms of the services and what you need to provide travel agencies or customers in Asia, where you're seeing the most interest for your sorts of services?
Well, I think I think it's around artificial intelligence. So I think it's just having the platform that agency community, meeting planners, they can engage. I mean, if you think even meeting planners and contractual, the contracts that go through, I mean, ultimately where we see it is as an AI agent can read the contracts, and then a lawyer can two lawyers can read two contracts here. So the AI agent can read it, and as a lawyer, principally, there's only 2 or 3 salient points that I'm going to argue over. So you can see an AI agent reading both contracts, them agreeing, disagreeing, and then it gets down to the last salient point that then they give it to the human lawyer to answer the question. So if you look at AI, it's endless and boundless what you can use it for to help drive innovation. But I think it's taking advantage of all these AI tools that we both have as companies to really change your business and change your business model. And the time is today because it's rapidly evolving, and companies like Grab, Microsoft invested in Grab very recently because these are fascinating companies that are driving innovation in this space, and with the advent of mobility.
Absolutely. In terms of innovation, what are the areas that Google's investing in most with regards to what Shane brought up, in terms of AI in the travel space?
So from a Google perspective, AI, we've spoken about a lot, and it's obviously a very important trend and something that we're really evolving. From a Google Travel perspective, you can see we've made a lot of changes to the products that we offer. So from Google Flights perspective, we're trying to give users greater information around delays in real time and flight cancellations, because we want to offer that better experience, and we're doing technology to help serve that. The good thing to know about Google Flights is also it's scaling, so it's coming to Asia. We're going to launch in Singapore, Philippines and Thailand this quarter. We'll be over 80 markets, so we're using that scale. From a hotel ads perspective, we've very much innovated in that space as well, in terms of being able to give users more choice and share more information around pricing. And also we are developing a more mobile experience. So we're taking the best of Google and brought that to the format. And then from an experiences perspective, with the Google Trips apps, we've focused on giving a much more intuitive experience. So for example, if I've booked my Bali holiday, when I go to search for experiences, now it'll pop up using my Gmail, my booking information, and perhaps suggest experiences, and that makes travel much more seamless and easy for the traveler. And then I think on a product side, we're doing a lot from automation, and we're seeing a high adoption of our automation products across the board, particularly in the travel advertisers, because they see that there's so much areas for improvement and winning the customers through automation. So we've launched things like dynamic search ads, which enable advertisers to basically dynamically serve ads against new search terms that they wouldn't otherwise have keywords for. And we've done a lot to automate bidding and give them advertisers a chance to bid in real time. So I think from a business efficiency perspective, that really helps them. And we're providing many more signals so they can be much more targeted. And then obviously we use a lot of our automated solutions to help provide dynamic creative. So again, customers can build for this personalized experience and really offer information in real time and relevant.
And Shane, how do you see, you were talking earlier about how the changes in the next 10 years, they're going to rival the last 250, right? What are some of the changes that you see specifically in the travel industry with regards to how technology could change it?
Yeah, I mean, I do believe a lot of the processes are beginning to become more automated. I mean, I think there's a race from a brand.com perspective, is how do I bring individuals into my brand away from kind of the OTAs, and the ability to do that is with the data and controlling the data and providing a more personalized journey. Because if I feel I get more out of my experience by going to you specifically, then I will go to you directly as opposed to try all the others. But if you look at the airline sector, I mean, it's such a fragmented space. You have travel agencies, then you have OTAs, then you have the airline sectors, and underneath it you have the GDS companies, Sabre, Apollo, and Amadeus. And the compute power it's so much cheaper today. Will GDS companies go away over time? I don't know. Right. But in the past, it's because of the compute power, but the compute power now can be accessed through a variety of cloud platforms. So how does the GDS system underneath all the travel agencies, how does that change? How does that evolve? And then how do travel agencies take more advantage where they control their inventory, the consumer, and they're a little bit more direct with the airline themselves. So it's all about content and really extending the experience beyond the hotel to the localized environment.
Yeah.
And it's share of, we're after the consumers really, it's all about experiences, and it's really share of life is how can I provide more to them around an experience in their life that makes them happier.
I mean, what the two of you have both talked about a great deal is how, in many ways, Asia is at the forefront
Yes.
of what's happening in the travel space. And, Hermione, I know that one of the markets that we haven't talked about today is China, but it's a big market, obviously, 400 million millennials in terms of potential customers out there. Google has talked recently about how it's experimenting with some kind of product in China when it comes to search. I think it was just a couple of days ago when Sundar Pichai said that. With regards to the travel space, are there any plans for a similar sort of experimentation in China?
So, in terms of what we're doing in China, my focus is really on helping travel brands grow. And so Google has been working with travel clients in China for many years and helping them create global brands across the board. So helping them engage with global consumers, like Ctrip and Trip.com. We help brands grow globally. I think from a market perspective, in terms of the industry, China is a huge opportunity, and there's so much going on there. And so many advertisers are focused on that market, and it's definitely one to watch. And as consumers, travel more, it's very interesting to target Chinese customers everywhere in the world.
Right, but no plans just as yet to change the current status quo from what you know?
Not that I'm aware of, is the short answer. Google's very focused on ensuring that users come to our platform and our platform's viewed as a trusted place, and that we give access to information across the world. So, what we've read about is that we've explored what search might look like.
Yeah, that's right.
And at the moment, as far as I understand it, it's exactly that, an exploration.
Excellent. Thanks, Hermione. Shane, Microsoft's been in China for 2 decades now,
Yeah.
or more than that possibly. With regards to the current trade tensions between the US and China, there have been lots of concerns. I've just come from the IMF and World Bank meetings in Bali, where this isn't just going to affect those 2 countries, it's going to affect global growth, so even for countries out in this part of the world. Are you seeing any evidence of that slowdown for your business in China?
No, I mean, I think from Microsoft perspective, we continue to make investments in China. I think we recently announced setting up an AI innovation lab in China itself. We have a strong cloud presence in China, and we've been working in that market for, as you said, a number of years. So we're watching the tensions. I'm from the U.S., so you see you hear a lot about it in the U.S. marketplace.
We hear a lot about it here too.
Yeah. So, but I think like anything geopolitical, we are watching each of the markets that we're in, but committed to the long-term future of enabling companies to drive their digital transformation, wherever they are in the world.
Excellent. Okay, we've got a couple of minutes left, I've been told, for the discussion. Time flies so fast. Thank you so much. Just from the 2 of you, very briefly, before we let you go, a sense of how you see, a sort of blue skies vision, 10 years in the future. What's the travel industry going to look like from a digital perspective? I'll start with you, Shane.
Oh, okay. No, I think what we're going to see is more of a connected travelers platform. So it's less fragmentation for the consumer. There's going to be some type of data sharing, whether that's at an airport. From an airport perspective, when you're in an airport today, they don't have the airline information. They don't trade data across. But we do believe that to the benefit of the consumer, there's going to be more of a connected traveler platform across, that as a consumer, I have more of a seamless journey, and technology and the sharing of technology, ensuring data privacy will enable that. And again, a much more, I guess I'd call it a personalization of one. So for me, individually, it will provide, based on my mode of travel, whether I'm for business, corporate, or from corporate, from a leisure, I'm with my family, whatever it may be, they're going to curate a better experience for me and for my family when I travel. So I think technology is going to enable all of that. And then it's going to drive some innovation, and it's going to drive some new entrances into the space. We don't know if Amazon, as example, is going to buy, or Airbnb is going to buy a hotel company. What happens if they do? So I think to think the impossible will probably happen. And with technology, how can you help yourself see around the corner to drive operational efficiency, better profit, and ultimately a better experience for the consumer?
Sounds excellent. It's all good news for us.
All
frankly.
good news.
All good news.
Yeah.
Okay, go for it.
Yeah, I think we see something similar. I mean, we're going to see many more people having access to travel. And that the consumer is going to be more and more empowered, and that's their expectation. I expect to see much more curated experiences, and that they're very seamless across all devices. I'm sure we will see more disruption in this space. I mean, Airbnb and other brands didn't exist 15 years ago, and I can't wait to see what happens that. Obviously, vacation rentals is a huge opportunity for the market, and I expect to see a rise of that and more developments there. And overall, I'm very positive about the travel industry and the growth that's there.
Yeah, and I would just one other thing, I would also recommend looking to other industries, not focused on travel, but look to other verticals to look for innovation in those verticals and say, how can I apply that innovation into the travel space? Because I get asked a lot, so who does it the best? And I'm like, well, someone in this vertical does it really well that we could bring it around. So we always have opportunity for improvement in our space.
Excellent. Hermione and Shane, thank you so much for your thoughts. I know I've learned a great deal today. I'm sure many members in our audience have too. So you've walked away with lots of lessons for your own businesses, maybe the opportunity to build the next unicorn in the travel space. I'm looking forward to coming back next year to ITB to find out all about that. Thank you. That's it from me, Karishma Vaswani. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.